CP3 live from the lab, coming to you for Sports on the Hill podcast. And yes, we're having some technical difficulties already. And if you tuned in yesterday to At the Bar Radio, you saw we had technical difficulties. Then too, it's just crazy right now. And bam, another technical difficulty. Robbie, take it away. Let me get things set up over here. It's a rough start to the show, but we got so much to talk about. Give me like 2 seconds to get this feed shared on my end. And how are you doing tonight, man? You see how my day starting out already.
Yeah. No, I'm doing well. We have a busy night ahead of us for sure. I do see that you are live on YouTube, so I did at least work on that end. We'll see about Periscope as well. We're trying a bunch of different things. We're always trying to push things, move things, get things going in a different direction. But yeah, it's going to be a fun show tonight. We got a lot to talk about in the sports world. I mean, all these different leagues shutting down for a couple of days. I'll start with the NBA. We'll talk more about that in the NBA roundtable in a little bit. But a rough week for the Nats. We'll have to break that down.
Rough ain't the word. Ugly and rough.
Yeah, so that's rough. I got to see the one good one, so I'll talk about that one. But you'll have to probably break down some of those losses, which I'm sorry about. But it is what it is. And we've got a lot of great hockey talk to talk about. It's interesting to see how these playoff picture is shaping up, and we'll bring Anna Knox in around 8 o'clock, and she'll help us break that down. And we'll have our NBA roundtable. It'll last about 20 minutes of this show to talk about how the NBA went on strike for a couple of days and then came back, and how the end of the first round was going and the beginning of the second round, since the East kind of got finished a bit before the West. And yeah, we'll also end the show with a bit of Washington football talk and some Mystics news maybe, and who knows what else. We've got so much to talk about.
No doubt, got so much to talk about, so many sports to cover. Like you said, it's been on DC sports has been on a little downturn lately, but it is what it is. But let's go ahead and start the show out on a somber note. We've had some key folks in our 90s upbringing and current situation in life right now. Some passing of some very important people this past weekend. You had Chadwick Boseman passing away. Found out he was fighting a battle of colon cancer for 4 years. You had John Thompson pass away. I believe yesterday they had it listed. No, today is the 31st. I've seen two different ones. One of the death date was yesterday, one was today, so I'm gonna just go with today. And then we also had Clifford Robertson, ex-Portland Trailblazer, cool dude, I'm not going to say great NBA player, but a very good NBA player, passed away recently. All, tragic losses to the sports community, especially John Thompson. He was the first African-American coach to win the NCAA basketball title. He actually was key to me getting involved in radio, because I used to listen to his show with Doc Walker and Brian Mitchell all the time, and it opened the door, I guess, for me to get into what we're doing now, because I still didn't know that this is what I wanted to do. But after listening to him for so long, and us having Doc Walker on this show and speaking to him, which was a great honor, wish we could get him back home, but you know how that be sometimes. But he was very integral in a lot of aspects in sports and in the world, because he touched a lot of different folks, from his aspect of recruiting players. Allen Iverson, put out a very I didn't get a chance to read the article Robbie sent me before the show, but he basically thanked him for basically saving his life and giving him a chance to play ball and go to Georgetown and change the trajectory of his life. And he did that for a lot of youth coming out that were had difficult backgrounds but had a talent, was able to get them into a college program and give their whole life a different path and some meaning and ability to change. Just to go over some quick highlights of the man's basketball life. I didn't know him personally, so I really can't go from the personal aspect, but he was 78 years old. He coached, talked about Georgetown basketball, led them to the NCAA championship in 1984. He's a Hall of Famer in the Naismith Hall of Fame and the National Collegiate Hall of Fame. He started out coaching at he started out playing at Archbishop Carroll, hometown guy, right here in DMV. Then he went to Providence, Got drafted by the Boston Celtics in 1964 in the third round. Played 2 seasons for the Celtics and ironically got 2 championship titles those 2 years he played for. That was pretty much his professional basketball career. Then he got into coaching in 1966. He started coaching for the St. Anthony's. He stayed there for 6 years before he ended up at Georgetown in 1972. Stayed there till 1999. As I mentioned, he won the championship in 1984. Coaching record of 596 wins with 239 losses, a 71% winning percentage, which is, according to these standards, that's great. And just think about the different era of basketball and, the way things were different back then and actually having a record. That man was professional and he knew what he was doing on the basketball court. Um, he won. He was a champ in 1984. He won Coach of the Year in 1985 for the Naismith Award. He won the UPI Coach of the Year in 1987. Was the Big East Coach of the Year 3 times: 1980, 1987, and 1992. He also received the bronze medal coaching the Olympic team in '88 in Seoul. Um, and then he got into broadcasting after he finished his coaching career. And like I said, if you ever tuned into that show when they had it on, it was definitely good radio. Him, Doc Walker, and Brian Mitchell had a hell of a rapport, and it got a little silly, but it was always fact filled, and he always got a different perspective on things from all three of those personalities. Robbie, you're a little bit younger than me, so I'm not sure how much Georgetown basketball you watch, the John Thompson stuff you do about. But did you follow John Thompson as a local sports fan?
I mean, obviously he's a legend in the area, so I've heard the lore. I can't say I was watching it back then, so to speak, but I mean all of the greats that have gone through that program, and it's been really incredible to kind of see the outpouring. I was reading that article about Allen Iverson, and just how influential it really was for him, and how he changed his life, how he saved his life. He says. So I think that's really, it's powerful to see how he's gotten to touch so many people and be able to be a part of so many legacies that ended up, going on and doing great things. The Patrick Ewings of the world, and it's so sad. I mean, there's just a bunch of the news and notes that you mentioned. Just reflecting on that, I mean. Chadwick and being the Black Panther and the larger than life character that he was, but also playing Jackie Robinson, and he played a lot of big roles, and I can't believe he did so much of that with with being still sick, and not letting anyone know, and just all these guys are very inspirational, and it makes me hate 2020 even more. It started with Kobe Bryant and COVID and all that sort of stuff, and it's just. It's been a rough year for sure.
Yeah, speaking for about Chadwick Boseman, I mean, we mentioned yesterday on the show at the bar, he played some pivotal roles along with Jackie Robinson in 42. Played Thurgood Marshall, which was a good movie, great movie. If for the historical factor of it and the fact that he knew the importance of playing these roles and knew that the newer generation, they say the inspiration for the movie 42 was that he was on a talk show or something with the athlete, and some folks didn't know who Jackie Robinson was. So it showed him right there the importance of portraying these great men in the proper light, because most of the younger generation, don't even know who these folks are, and he would be like the history book for these folks, where they used to teach it in schools, the stuff that we learned coming up as second nature. Now they're not, so he knows that now these movies are going to be kind of like history books to them, and he takes those roles seriously, and he did. And as you mentioned, doing those roles and being sick and still, being a true professional and doing his craft, and enjoying life and trying to live life instead of looking at it the other way. It's just taking him, it's draining him. He fought through the adversity and kept going as long as he could, and that's huge. And you saw the outpouring from athletes and celebrities alike from the pivotal roles that he played, and being the fact that I saw something that Denzel Washington put him through acting school, and when he was going to Howard, Felicia Rashad was there, and she did a speech, and she met him, and just from that one meeting, she decided to help him, in his career and be a mentor for him. So his power everyone felt that around him, the aura that he had, the goodwill and the nature of the person that he was. People picked up on that, and just from hearing the stories of folks that interacted with him on a daily basis, he was truly a great man. Unfortunately, we lose great men too early, too often it seems, and might as well end the RIP with Clifford Robinson, who passed away. I believe the news broke today. Look, they said he had a lymphoma. Excuse me, he was battling that for over a year. So unfortunately, he lost his battle. He was 53 years old, second round pick of the Portland Trail Blazers. Played there 8 seasons, made it to the finals twice in 1990 and 1992. Won the Sixth Man of the Year in 1994. He was known for being a highly energetic player. He was out there a hard worker. Hit the boards. He wasn't a true low post player, but he had inside and outside game, so he could work you on the post sometimes. But his bread and butter was that 12 to 15 foot jump shot. Once he get the rebound and take you outside, and then he could drive on you. So he was known for always wearing his headband, coming off the bench doing this thing, and he was another. I watched basketball back then, so I remember watching him play, especially at Portland versus the Bulls championship. I remember watching those. So unfortunately, he lost the battle. Rest in peace. Three pivotal people in our current life and our life coming up. Because John, like I said, John Thompson had a lasting impression on me. I just remember sitting, working with my dad with talk radio, or listen to him, Doc Walker, and B. Mitch just chop it up on the air, just kind of like we do, man. So yeah, he was definitely an inspiration in my life.
For sure. I'm sorry if I'm muted. Zach's not having a good time of
Hey,
it.
man, you know how Zach is. If Zach don't agree, Zach will let you know.
All right, well, let's bring in Arun and Brian, and we can talk Nats a little bit. And we've already not had a particularly great start with that home run right there.
I just missed it. Yeah, you just broke it. I was looking at my notes and then already giving up on. That's been pretty much the Nats' problem this year, giving up the home run. It's I'm a delve into the game somewhat, not really get deep into them, but most of the reason these games are they went 1-5 last week was untimely home runs given up by pitchers, starting and bullpen. So yeah, we'll break that down in a second. We're talking about the Nats 1-5 week, nothing really too much to talk about, but we got to talk about it because it's Nats baseball. You still there, Robbie? You double muted?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I just thought we were bringing Brian and Arun in. Okay, no,
right.
Sorry.
All right, there we go. Let me get my feed together. There we go. All right. There we go. All right, we good to go. What's going on, Arun? How you doing tonight, man?
Not bad, in the same position. Lots of big losses this weekend and today too, and the Nats haven't been playing well either.
Yeah, it's been a rough week on all sides. Brian, what's going on, man? Good to have you back. What's going on with you, man?
I'm doing well. I agree. 2020 sucks. It's been a terrible year.
Yeah, it's hard to even put into words, man. You don't even want to say what else can go wrong because something else will, but it's pretty much all you can do is throw your head to the sky and just be like, okay, come on, 2021. It can't. Well, you can't even say it can't be worse because it could be, but it's just so much going on. You just try to push through and focus on some positive things, whatever few positive things you have. But yeah, this last week at the Nats, it was definitely nothing positive to look at because it was just downright bad. I'm not going to say embarrassing. It wasn't that bad, but these untimely home runs is killing me. You think they're in the game, you think things are going well, then one inning it all just implodes. They had a couple of times they've given up, had a 4 or 5 run inning put up against them, and we're used to seeing the Nats do that for themselves, not have that done against them. But let's go ahead and get into this quick week that we really don't want to talk about, but we have to. Nats are currently sitting 12-19, 5th in the National League, which is really not that bad. They're only 6 games out of first, so over half of the season is past now. 31 games, just make 32. They're only 60 games in the season. So if the Nats are going to make a run, they need to do it ASAP, especially with this week when they're playing both two NL East opponents. So it could definitely be in their favor to, play better. But as Robbie just mentioned, Eric Fetty's given up a solo home run in the bottom of the first already, and that's definitely been one of his issues, the long ball. As I mentioned, they went 1-5 on the week. They finished up the series versus the Marlins on Monday. We were covering that game live during the show last week. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way we had liked. Miami won that game 11-8. They put up a 6-run fourth inning, which gave them a 7-0 lead, which was, pretty much a cushion all that they needed. The Nats did push back and put up 8 runs in the final 3 innings, but it just wasn't enough. Mark Eaton hit a 3-run home. Mark Eaton, I've got basketball in my brain still. Adam Eaton hit a 3-run home run in the 8th inning to make it a little bit more interesting. But unfortunately, the Nats couldn't overcome that 6-run fourth. Lopez was the winner for Miami. He went 5 innings, giving up 6 hits, 3 runs. None of them earned because it was on an error with 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. Austin Voth took the loss. That puts him at 0-3. He went 3 2/3, giving up 6 hits, 6 earned runs with 3 strikeouts and 3 walks. And Brandon Kinsler earned the save, going 1 inning, giving up no hits with a strikeout and a walk. That's his 6th save of the season. After that game, the Nats took on Philadelphia and the much hated, now hated Bryce Harper. Didn't turn out any better against the Phillies. Lost 2 out of 3. The third game got postponed. We'll go ahead and break it down real quick before I get your guys' take on it. You can go ahead and wrap up the Marlins series if you did check it out. But, we were talking about it last week, so probably really ain't much to talk about. The first game, the Nats lost 8-3. Lone bright spot, Trey Turner hit his 11th his franchise record 11th leadoff home run of the game. First in his first at bat, I believe it was his second pitch of the game. That gave him 6 on the year. Adam Eaton hit a solo home run. Philly had a 4-run third inning, which, blew the game wide open for them. Their bullpen pretty much shut down the Nats. Jake Arrieta was on the mound for 5 innings. He pitched well, besides giving up the solo home run to Trey. He lasted 5 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 strikeout, and 1 walk. Eric Fetty, who's on the mound tonight, he took the loss and puts him at 1-2. He went 5 innings, giving him 7 hits, 4 earned runs with 1 strikeout and 1 walk. And the second game of the series, the Nats ended up losing that one 3-2. With Aaron Nola on the mound for Philly, he went 7 innings, giving him 5 hits, 2 earned runs with 8 strikeouts. Will Harris took the loss for the Nats, going 1 inning, giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run with a strikeout. It was unfortunate. The hit that he gave up was the game-winning RBI to Bryce Harper in the 7th inning, which gave them the 3-2 lead, which I know a lot of folks was watching the game probably really hated, being that Bryce won the game for him. And for the save for the Phillies, Workman, he got his second save, going 1 inning, giving up 2 hits with 2 strikeouts. And Soto hit a solo home run, his 8th of the year in that game. Brian, did you get a chance to check out any of that shortened Philly series? They postponed because it was definitely interesting.
I didn't get to see too much of the series, but I think the Nationals, they obviously have to win all these divisional games if they want any chance to make the playoffs, and it's frustrating to lose these games. There were a couple of frustrating moments in this series as well, like the home run that went off of the wall and just bounced off the wall off of Eaton's glove. That was crazy. That was a crazy moment and a big turning point in that game too. So that really obviously cost the Nationals. And then the second game is just tough luck. You lose on the Harper RBI, and that's a tough loss for the Nationals. But like I said, you got to win all these divisional games if you really want any chance to get back into these playoff races. And obviously, these losses contributed to what was a pretty crappy week for the Nationals overall.
Indeed, very crappy. Arun, did you get a chance to check out those 2 games and that loss to the Marlins that we were covering last week? What did you take away from this series?
Yeah, that Marlins loss was pretty bad that they got down by that huge deficit, but at least they fought back, and you thought, maybe they'll build momentum going off. They scored 8 runs even though they were down by a lot. But then I think the second game was a 3-2 game. They kind of they started off with a double in the bottom of the ninth. Kendricks barely reached. I thought he was actually out in live time, but he barely made it. And then they had a pinch runner, and I believe the Nats did get a single, but that didn't score the pinch runner, and Thames and Robles weren't able to get the job done moving Taylor from third base to home. So I think that was just pretty much emblematic of the Nats' struggle this season. They just put up a fight, but then they don't have enough. And it was not good that the Nats couldn't really pull out a win against the Phillies in either of these games.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but they did have one postponement due. I said it was to rain. I was misspoke when I said that. That was actually a postponement due to the suspension of games in baseball and hockey. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the segment as a segue into our hockey talk. Our basketball talk a little bit later on. But that game was postponed. I believe they're going to be making up in this series that they're playing with the Phillies now. It was just, like I said, the standout thing is the pitching, and which is leading to big innings by giving up these home runs. And they definitely have to make some noise this week. And if they expect to try to get back in this race, we know they're going to be 8 teams in the playoffs this year. So that gives them a little bit more of a shot if they can right the ship. But the way they've been playing lately, and with the injuries, to Strasburg, I think that's really taking a toll. Not having this consistency out there on the mound that you can almost pretty much bank on him. Giving you a good strong 6-7 innings of some, maybe 1 run or 2 run ball to keep your team in it no matter what. So, and a lot of these pitchers that we're using involved in Fetty and Romero, they're young, they're inexperienced. I'm not going to say inexperienced. Fetty, he's been up for a couple of, at least about 3 seasons now, and I believe Voth, this is his 2nd season. So they got to start putting it together on the mound. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to get consistent and, find the strike zone and not throwing these lollipops right down the middle and busting the game wide open after the team has either got a lead or found a way to scrap back in to get down by a few runs, and the next thing you know, you get a 3 or 4 run inning, and then you're out of the game or you got to start all over again. It's been a rough week, man. Let's get into Boston. We spoke.
Carol, real quickly before, I just wanted the rescheduled date to answer your question. Is not part of this series. It's the series that's going to be the next time when they're back in Washington. Right. September 22nd, I think there's a doubleheader.
Cool. Good info, Robbie. Good job. Appreciate that. But yeah, we had we spoke last week with Brian about the Red Sox and how bad they were, and we were saying that hopefully the Nationals will be able to at least win the series, if not, get a sweep. Unfortunately, they didn't. They only won 1 out of 3, which I can't even call it when Brian was saying how bad the Red Sox were. I was hoping that they would at least be able to salvage the week after losing the 2 to Philly to at least go 3-2. But no, they went 1-5. The lone bright spot of the week was the first game of the series where the Nationals won 10-2, had a 5-run third, finally have a big inning on our side for a change. Mad Max went 6 innings. He won the game, put him at 3-1. He gave up 6 hits with 1 earned run and 11 strikeouts with no walks, which is, classic Max. That's his 97th game of having double-digit strikeouts. Perez took the loss. That put him at 2-4. He won 4 innings, giving up 8 hits, 6 earned runs with 1 strikeout. Juan Soto had a 2-run home run. That was his 9th. Howie Kendrick went back-to-back after that Soto home run for that 5-run to get that 5-run third with a solo home run. That was his 2nd of the year. And Josh Harrison hit a 2-run home run in the 8th inning, his 2nd of the year. The Nats offense finally woke up and, had some solid pitching from Max, and the bullpen was pretty clean for the rest of the game. And
can I just talk about that game for just a second? Because it's the only one I saw of this one. It was a great game, and Zach has been getting into baseball lately. He's been carrying his bat around and trying to hit different things. We've been setting up tees and whatever. And so he actually sat down. We put on a brand new. He had never worn this shirt before. It was another blue one. Remember last year in the big run, He wore his blue shirt through the whole entire campaign, and he put it on right before that inning. We went and we sat down on my bed and we watched it we were only going to watch 1 or 2 innings, and that was the inning I got to show him. It was just bam, bam, bam. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it was just kind of cool to experience it with him. He kept on saying, wow, and, so it was it was a cool moment as a father teaching a son about baseball, for that to be like the one that we sat down and watched together. And I'm happy that was the highlight of the week. Clearly, we need to sit down and watch more baseball together.
Yeah, well, Hope glad he only saw the 10-2 win. If he saw some of those ugly losses, he might have got turned off by baseball after the way they played most of the week. So good thing he did see the one victory. Since it's the one bright spot, I guess I'll go ahead and ask you guys now before I go with the 2 losses. Brian, we got a glimpse of what this national teams could be. We saw Mad Max on the mound doing his thing, only giving up 1 run, and it was a home run, but it was only 1. And we saw the offense come alive. We saw home runs. We saw small ball. What do you think is holding this team back from being consistent and playing like this on a daily basis?
I don't know if it's the injuries or maybe just the fact that it's an older team and asking them to do what they did last year, it might just be too much, honestly. But it's just crazy how inconsistent they can be sometimes. Like, they have terrible games against the Phillies, and then they come right back to Boston and put up a great offensive performance, and they get a win from Scherzer. I mean, I think you can expect to win the games when Scherzer is pitching for sure, but it's like every other game, you don't really know what you're going to get. It's kind of frustrating to watch sometimes, even from an outsider perspective, just because you never know what this team could do. Like, some days they're just not going to show up at all, and some days they go out there and they just put on a great offensive performance. So it's definitely frustrating to see. But, you wonder if it's maybe the age is getting to them. They were the oldest team in baseball last season when they won the World Series. So you wonder if maybe that's getting to them a little bit. But I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the way. I thought they might actually make some moves today at the trade deadline, too, and I was surprised that they didn't.
Yeah, I did forget today was a trade deadline. I did see some stuff come across, but yeah, they didn't make any moves. Room, same question to you. What do you think is just holding this team back from playing like they did this 10-2 win and being more consistent with it? You think it's also the age, the injuries, or just baseball?
It's the lack of starting pitching after Scherzer and Corbin. Sanchez and Bott have not been really good this year, and the other guys that they have filling in, giving up. I think Bott's ERA is close to 9, and Sanchez is almost at 7. So, and the bullpen has been a little bit better than last year in the beginning, but they're still even that 3-2 loss, the bullpen gave up the 1 earned run after Corbin only gave up 2. The bats were slow without Soto in the beginning of the year. They're picking up now, especially also Garcia's in there too. But I think the starting pitching needs to be picked up by those other guys.
Yeah, definitely agree. Pitching has been key, and yeah, Corbin, he's had a couple of hiccups his last couple of starts, but he's been not too bad. He's given up a home run here and there. He hasn't lost his mechanics or anything, but the last two to three outings haven't been his best. The first 2 was pretty good. Scherzer, he's max. I mean, you know what to expect from this guy. He's always, locked in unless he's injured or fighting through an injury or whatever. So, yeah, Voth, Fetty, Sanchez, and Romero, they got to get it together because, yeah, time is running out. Over half of the season is done. If they try to make a playoff run to defend their title, they need to get it together. But I guess I'll go ahead and break down these last 2 losses and wrap up this Nats Talk segment, get to the upcoming schedules. I know we got some NBA roundtable to talk about. I know you guys got somewhere to be later on. So let's finish up this Nats Talk. Game 2 of the Boston series was a unfortunate 5-3 loss by the Nats. They gave up 4 runs in the first 2 innings. Then they put up 3 runs in the next 2 innings after that, but then unfortunately Sanchez gave up a home run in the 5th inning, which was the deciding factor because Boston's bullpen shut down the Nats offense. Winner of that game was can't even read my head. Brazier, I think I said that right. He's 1-0. He went in the 3rd, giving up 1 hit and 1 strikeout. Sanchez took the loss, puts him at 1-4. I'm sorry. He went 5 innings, giving up 8 hits, 5 earned runs with 4 strikeouts. And Barnes earned the save, going 1 inning, giving up one walk, and 1 strikeout. And to finish up the series, I was hoping the Nats would at least be able to win the series. Wrong notes. Hold up. There we go. And unfortunately, it was a 9-5 loss last night. Gave up 8 runs in the first 3 innings of the game. Wasn't pretty at all. Austin Rolfe took the mound. He only lasted 2 innings, giving up 6 hits, 5 earned runs with 3 strikeouts and a walk. Osich won the game for Boston. He went an inning in the third, giving up 2 hits with 1 strikeout. Josh Harrison hit his 3rd home run of the game, 3rd home run of the season, I'm sorry, with a solo home run. Eric Thames hit his 2nd home run of the season. And this was just an ugly game from the start. As I mentioned, they gave up 8 runs in the first 3 innings. So this game was pretty much over from the start. They mounted some offense, putting up 5 runs, but by then it was too late, and they lost the series to a team that, as Brian mentioned last week, was the first team with over 20 losses. And the Nats are right behind them at 12-19 right now, looking to try to start a winning streak. And it looks like Eric Fetty's giving up a 2nd home run in the bottom of the second, as I was just talking about, pitchers giving up home runs to give the Phillies a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the second. And Eric Fetty gets stung again by a home run. At least it was a solo. At least nobody was on. Try to look at the bright side, but you can't keep giving up home runs on a regular. And I'm wondering how much longer till the Nats are gonna maybe bring somebody up to maybe take his spot. Maybe it's something that needs to be on the IL or needs to work on something, but he consistently giving up home runs, and that has to end. Rune, I'll go to you first. Those last 2 games against Boston, did you check those out, and what do you think about Eric Fetty, since he just put himself on Front Street, giving up his 2nd solo home run in 2 innings in this game already?
Yeah, that's not good that he gave up another home run, but at least there are no runners on. Positive. Yeah, like as I said before, Sanchez and Roth weren't that good this weekend. At least Trey Turner, since he's announced that he's having a kid, he's hitting 420. That weekend game, even the win, Soto got 200 RBIs. Only 7 other players younger than him have done that in MLB history, so that's good for him. At the end of the day, since the season is so short, the Nats are still not out of it. I think they're only 3.5 games out of the playoff spot. But yeah, and it's tough to lose those 2 games to the Red Sox. I think the home run by the Red Sox was his first home run of his career. Is kind of crazy in the Sunday game. So yeah, the Nats need to pick it up, but maybe this isn't their year without Strasburg.
Did we already? I may have missed. I was producing some stuff behind the scenes. Did we talk about Trey Turner's consecutive streak?
I was just about to bring that up when Arun mentioned him. I forgot to highlight. Well, I talked about his franchise record, 11th leadoff, but we didn't talk about his impressive hit streak and what he's been doing on the pad. So yeah, that's definitely something I was going to bring up before I pass it to Brian. But I know you probably got the stats in front of you, so go ahead, run away with it, Robbie.
Well, no, go. You can go for it. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget about it. And somehow, no, it was pretty awesome.
He had 5 hits in the other game. He's been a 16-game hitting streak now. If you recall, I believe it was it last year? He had a 26 or 27 game hit streak. So I don't know if you recall, but I've been a Trey Turner fan when we first had him, and then they ended up trading him away, and luckily got him back, and we know how he helped on that run last year. I've always been a Trey Turner fan. He's great in the field. He's been keeping that infield together, honestly. They've been giving up a lot of errors, and we talked about all the flux and player changes in the infield, but he's been the one steady force out there. That shortstop is key, and he's been killing it out there playing in the field. Arun, you talked about it a little bit before I go to Brian. How do you feel about Trey Turner? Have you seen some of the plays he's been making defensively, along with the show he's been putting on at the plate lately?
Arun?
So Arun, you just there you go. Before I go to Brian.
It's really impressive the streak he's putting up. the bats have come alive. Turner, he was hitting below 200 before this hot start, but the season, I mean, it's an unusual season, so to be expected some players get off to faster starts, and definitely Turner is really playing really good baseball right now.
Yes, indeed. Brian, what do you take away from those last two games against the lowly Red Sox, and how do you feel about Trey Turner on the outside looking in, Mr. New York guy?
Yeah, I think Trey Turner is a great player. I think he's like one of the heart and soul players, I think, for the Nationals. He's such a huge part of their run last year. So many big moments, and he's right, and he's Mr. Consistent. He gets it done time in, time out. And you mentioned that he's played well since he's found out he's going to become a dad. I've noticed actually across all sports, really, that some people just have that dad strain. So when they find out they're going to become a dad, their stats get better. They become more excited and they start performing better. So maybe that's the case here with Trey Turner. As far as those last two games with the Red Sox go, I mean, the Red Sox, like I said last week, are not a good team. And to lose those two games, I know Sanchez and Voss were both really bad. It was really unacceptable. I mean, they should honestly beat the Red Sox if they want any chance to make the playoffs. But like Arun said, they still mathematically, I mean, they're only 3.5 games out with 30-something games to go. There's still a chance for sure, but it's not looking good. I thought like I said, I mentioned the trade deadline. I thought the Nationals might actually sell some pieces instead of buy this year. So, but I was surprised that they didn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But to lose 2 out of 3 in Fenway is not good. It's a tough series.
Yeah, I got a couple of those stats real quick for the Trey Turner one now, because some of these are pretty ridiculous. So he had 11 hits, which sets a Nationals record for most hits in a 3-game series. He had 8 in a row, and he also tied the record for most hits against the Red Sox in a 3-game series all time. Wow. And with that 11, so that was pretty awesome. And both Juan Soto and him now have enough plate appearances over the weekend to qualify for the league's leaderboards. So he and Turner now tied at 360 for the major league lead in batting average, which I thought was interesting.
Wow, I didn't even know that, but yeah, they've been basically carrying this team. Juan Soto and Trey Turner. We've had some, sightings. Victor Robles has done some good things. Cabrera's done some good things, but we haven't been able to see it consistently. And we have seen it consistently through those two. Hopefully, it starts going through the rest of the team, and they can get on a little winning streak and try to get back in this playoff chase. Robbie, you want to go ahead and go to upcoming games before we head to NBA? I know you guys on a short timetable tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Let's. We're playing this current game. It's still 2-0, right? I looked down for a second. It is. So hopefully they can get themselves back into it. We'll have updates throughout the rest of the show for that. But the upcoming schedule, on Tuesday, September 1st, they continue the series 7:05. Wednesday, September 2nd, also at 7:05. And then Thursday, September 3rd, that's an afternoon 4:05 game. And then they've got a weekend series where there's 2 at Atlanta. It's a doubleheader, a 4:10 and a 7:10. Remember, those are shortened doubleheader games. And then on Saturday, they continue to play at Atlanta at 7:10. And then Sunday, it's a daytime game at 1:10. So that's a lot of games. They're going to play 7 more games this week for a total of 8 games. So a lot that we'll definitely break down next week for sure.
Definitely. And just going to segue into the NBA with we talked about the postponement and the first series versus the Phillies, the social, injustice that we see going on, unfortunately, on a constant basis. We normally don't talk politics on here, so I'm not going to go deep into it. I'm just going to talk about the impact of these players basically standing up from what they've seen in the current events and actually, deciding to suspend, boycott, shut down, whatever you want to call it, the NBA, NHL playoffs, and MLB, some of their games. And if you were fortunate enough to watch MLB Network the other day when they first shut down, they had some very intriguing conversations about race relations, about the what's going on. So if you get a chance, go check out their website. I'm sure they have it up there. I haven't had a chance to go check myself. But they had a great conversation about everything was going on, especially with it being Jackie Robinson weekend with all the players wearing 42 and Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman passing away. Who played the role very well in the latest, Jackie Robinson movie, and just the fact that the NHL, which has the least amount of minorities in it, were willing to shut down their playoffs, for 2 days to, you know, step up and say we need to start having this discussion and things need to change is huge. And it started with the NBA with the Bucks deciding to not take the court, and then it went through the rest of the league, and then we saw the movement that we saw. So on that note, I'll let you guys go ahead and get ready to get for your NBA roundtable. Appreciate Arun and Brian for your input on the baseball situation, and I'm gonna sit back and listen to y'all talk basketball right now.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol. So yeah, I'll take control. We'll bring in our two other guests real fast. First, we'll bring in Tim, and he's a member of our NBA roundtable in the Wizards crew. So we'll bring him in, and we'll also bring DC People's Champ in to talk as well. So I see that he's already got the championship belt, and yeah, so that'll be good. So well, I'll start with you, Champ. It's sort of a historic week. I'll let you have the floor. What is your general thoughts on what happened with the NBA, the lockout, and the fallout?
I it was good to see. It was good to see because it had to be done. Something had to be done to wake people up. And the one thing that I've learned from everything that's been going on this year with the pandemic and with the social injustice and all the protests and things of that nature, the boycotts, not only am I learning that people really do care about these issues, but I'm also learning that there are people whose priorities are really screwed up, like severely screwed up. People are mad at these players for not playing a game when there's a whole lot worse things going on outside of the sports world. But all people care about is, oh, they're not playing a game. I ain't gonna watch this no more. Well, fam, you better turn your TV off. For those who want to boycott all sports, you might as well just turn your TV off, period, and just don't watch TV anymore. Because you're not going to stop not seeing this, period. And what the NBA players did, kudos to them, especially Milwaukee, because they kicked it off by not coming out on the court. They kicked it off, and then the WNBA followed, and all the other sports leagues followed. I was so happy to see it. I was so happy to see it. As a person of color, I was really happy to see it.
I think it's really important. I think it was really good that Milwaukee did it because a couple of things were talking about it, but they were like, it's affecting our community. It sort of made sense for them to be the first in that dominoes to fall. And I think that LeBron and some of the other big players in the NBA really went into some of these meetings not sure if they were going to come back to the court. So I thought it was interesting to see that they were able to get some additional voting locations, these giant arenas that are in these areas that are sometimes hard to get voting with social distancing. So it was really important that they get this additional voting in the area, and I was happy to see that they could use this change for a force for good, because I was really wondering, it's like they're going to stop, and I think it's important, but what are they going to then do? What's the next step? Like, how do they get back on the court? What did they want? As their, obviously there's a lot that we want, but what can they tangibly get in a short time that would be unique and important and helpful? And I think using some of these giant arenas as a place for additional voting so there could be more physical distance, I think will be actually quite huge for some of these neighborhoods. I hope that it is impactful in many ways. I do want to mention the Bucks are playing right now. It's a live game. Milwaukee is up by 1 point over Miami. So it's 54-53 with about 156 left in the first half, in the second quarter, that is. So we'll definitely be talking about that one. I know that our time is short today, so we're going to do kind of a speed round talking about where we're at. We kind of broke down the Eastern Conference last week really quickly with Brian and Arun because there were a lot of sweeps or almost sweeps on that side. The West was a little bit more interesting, but right now the Lakers beat Portland. The Clippers beat Dallas. The Denver-Utah series is tied And then the Houston-Oklahoma City series continues tonight. Right now, Houston's up 3-2 in that series. So I'm going to give each one of you guys one Western Conference series to sort of break down your thoughts on. DC's People Champ, I'll let you go first. Is there a particular one that you want to break down between those four in the West?
I want to break down Houston OKC because I'm very interested. I went back and checked the stats while y'all were talking that talk before I came on, and OKC got destroyed the other night. I mean, Westbrook came back. I thought he was going to go off on his former team, and he didn't. But I mean, he didn't need to. I mean, James Harden did for him. So Houston, all they got to do is continue the offense. All they got to do is continue the same offensive output they put out, especially that last game, and they get OKC out of here. OKC needs to step it up offensively and defensively. Otherwise, they going home. Point blank, period.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting. So that game's a little bit later tonight. Tim, of the three remaining series, you want to talk about Portland, or is that too tough of a subject? I know you tend to like them.
No, I'll talk about Portland. Yeah, that's the team I like the most in the West, and it was a really disappointing series. They were actually lucky to even get this far. They had to go 7-2 in the regular season bubble to even make the 8th seed. So they came in with some momentum, and then they played really well and won game 1. But the Lakers really dominated the following 4 games, and really only one of them was kind of close. Yeah, I see the Kobe. I think he inspired them too, because one of the games was like on the anniversary of him. So, but I mean, Lillard got hurt. The Blazers still played great in terms of scoring from the star power in Game 5. Melo still looks like he has something left, so hopefully they'll re-sign him. But he is a free agent. And McCollum had a great Game 5. He had to really lead with Lillard out. It's just LA is too deep. LeBron was amazing. He was his usual self. AD was great. And Portland, after Charles Barkley, of course, guaranteed a Portland sweep, they immediately lost 4 straight. So he looks like a complete idiot, but that's not really a new thing.
Right.
So it was disappointing. I think Portland can build off of it, and LA had enough of a challenge that it's going to serve them well in the next round. So, both teams can kind of think positively, but it wasn't as close as a lot of people had hoped.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I will talk. 8/24 Day was a day honoring Kobe's legacy. They named the street outside of the arena that day in his honor. And LeBron, as you mentioned, went off. LeBron also went off in the next game as well. Just has a ton of triple doubles and just really filling up the stat sheet, not only from the scoring point of view, but just really sort of being an all-around great player. He's really won me over. I mean, if people have listened to this show for 5 years, they know that I was not a big LeBron fan before. But I thought that some of the stuff that he said, especially after the game about Kobe and about the situation, some of the stuff he said this week and being a leader in the NBA, I think him working with Michael Jordan, who even though Charlotte's not in this bubble, he was really pivotal in trying to get them back onto the court, and I thought that was really good as the only minority owner and also the only owner who was once a former player. So I thought that he played a big role in them being able to figure out how could they use this change for good. But yeah, the Lakers, it started off a little slow, but also the Blazers were one of the hottest teams in the bubble coming into the playoffs. They did really well in sort of the play-in games. So it was a good series, and it'll be interesting to see what happens next. All right, Arun, I'll let you have dealers pick between the last two. Do you want to do the Clippers-Dallas, or do you want to do the Denver-Utah one?
Denver, Utah.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, that's been a really back and forth series. There are 2 players in that series that scored multiple 50-point games now, Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray, and the only other 2 players are Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson. That's pretty incredible that's happening in one series. It might also be because it's a bubble environment, but still, I think Jamal Murray's just hitting step back threes in transition with 22 seconds on the shot clock. Utah can't really double. Like Charles Barkley, he was getting on the Utah Jazz for not doubling Murray, but if you double Murray, then Jokic will make the right play no matter what, and even grant the Nuggets for knocking down threes. I think the turning point from that being a 3-1 Utah lead was not only the Nuggets started playing better defense in Game 5, and then Gary Harris came back, and he's one of the better defenders, and somehow one of the Plumlee brothers pulled out like his bag of tricks for Nuggets, Mason Plumlee. I don't know, there used to be 3 of them in the NBA, now there's only 1. That's the really crazy series. I'm not really sure who's going to win in Game 7. It's the 3rd Game 7 the Nuggets have had in the last 2 years. It's going to be a great game for sure.
Yeah, and Brian, what are your thoughts on that last matchup? The Clippers beating the Mavs.
Yeah, this series was really exciting, especially the Game 4 where Luka hit the game-winning shot. It was just so dramatic, and you thought that might turn the series, but I think ultimately missing Porzingis really hurt the Mavericks. Obviously, he was out for the rest of the series. He didn't play again after Game 3, and I think that really hurt them. Paul George played well in Game 5. He scored 35 points, and the Clippers won by, I think, 41 points in that game. And then the Clippers had a pretty big lead in Game 6 as well, but the Mavericks came back. But ultimately, at the end, the Clippers were able to pull away. I mean, they were the better team in this series, so I expected them to win. But, still, this was a good series, and I think, this is just the start of Luka Doncic and the Mavs. I think they'll be back next season. I think they're going to have a really good season next year. Probably have a nice playoff run as well because, Luka's only 21. He's only getting better, and it's going to be exciting to see for the rest of the league for sure. But good series win for the Clippers. Shout out to Doc Rivers for everything he said on the Jacob Blake situation. I thought that was outstanding as well. He's a great coach, great guy, Doc Rivers. So I loved everything he had to say on that situation. But good series win for his team here in the Clippers.
Yeah, sounds good. So Lakers and Clippers move on. We're still figuring out the Denver, Utah, Houston, or OKC who will play them. Real quickly, because I know Arun and Brian, your time is short. I'll let you guys give your quick take on the Miami, Milwaukee, and the Boston, Toronto series. I'm going to start with you, Arun. Give your quick take on each of those, and then I'll let you go.
I saw that the Milwaukee was massive favorites against the Heat, which doesn't really make any sense to me because I think Milwaukee even struggled a bit against Orlando, and they were missing 2 of their starters due to injuries, including Isaac and Aaron Gordon. I think this series could go either way because Spoelstra is a great coach. Coach Bud is an okay coach, and it really just depends on if Eric Bledsoe shows up or not. But I think it's a toss-up series in my view.
Yeah, and you, so it's just going to be really interesting, especially because I believe Milwaukee actually lost to Miami in the season series, if I remember correctly. So it was.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's not an easy matchup. I mean, on paper it looks easier for Milwaukee than it was, but nothing was even easy in their first round matchup for them. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. All right, Aaron, any final thoughts before we have to let you go, and then I'll let Brian give his take on this too?
Not really. It's funny that Nick got ejected in the Clippers. But other than that,
shout out to Marcus Morris.
Other than that, have a good night, everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you, Aaron, for all of your baseball and basketball talk. Appreciate it. All right, Brian, your thoughts on those 2 Eastern Conference matchups before we let you leave?
Yeah, I think Milwaukee, Miami is going to be a great 6 or 7 game series. I think the Bucks are going to win, but overall, I think it's going to be a good matchup. Miami has a lot of depth. Both these teams have incredible depth. And it goes beyond even the guys they have in their starting lineup. So that's why I think it'll be a deep series. I think Milwaukee will win, but it's going to be close for sure. And as far as the Raptors-Celtics series goes, I'm surprised the Celtics won Game 1, especially how easily they did it. Last year, the Celtics won Game 1 against Milwaukee, too, and Paul Pierce famously declared that series was over, and it didn't quite work out. They lost the next 4 games. So, we'll see if this happens again to the Celtics, but I like the start for them in that series. I think that's another 6 or 7 game series for sure.
Sounds good. Any final thoughts before we let you go, Brian, on anything?
Yeah, no, I just want to say I love everything that the NBA players are doing. I loved taking the days off to protest. I thought that was all great. Keep doing what they're doing, using their platform for good. I love it. Other than that, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman and John Thompson, and have a good night.
Thank you so much, Brian. As always, it's great having you for the baseball and the basketball talk, and hope you have a good one, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Alrighty. Tim, I'll ask you the same question. The two series, Milwaukee Bucks versus Miami and Toronto versus Boston, what are your thoughts on those two series?
Yeah, I agree with the other guests. I think it's Milwaukee will pull out the series in 6 or 7 games. I just think they're deeper. It's not good that Bledsoe was a late scratch today. Their starting point guard. They looked good in the first half, but if he's out for a bunch of games, that could definitely tilt the series the other way. Miami's really talented and deep, so it's not going to be easy. But I think just with Milwaukee playing a lot of really important playoff games this year and last year, they're going to be able to pull it out. And also, I think the Raptors will come back and win that series in 6 or 7, also a very long series. Boston, I think, has a good team even without Hayward, but the Raptors just have the championship pedigree, and a lot of their players have been much better this season. Not to mention all the experience and kind of the chip on their shoulder with that Kawhi. So I think they're both going to go long, and the higher seeds will win. But I'm excited to see if I'm wrong. You never know.
Sounds good. Any final messages before we let you go tonight?
I think just echoing what everybody's saying. I mean, it's been a really sad year, week, month, whatever period of time. All the issues in the country, plus all the deaths of famous people and just normal people as well. It's good to kind of talk about things that bring us together. It's just sad that everything's up in the air in terms of what's going to happen at the end of the year. But, I guess all you can do is kind of enjoy the little things, and hopefully sports, will allow us to smile a little bit the rest of this year.
No, I really appreciate it. I mean, Tim and I have been friends, off this for a very long time, and I at least get to see you once a week to do this, so that makes me happy, even if we can't watch some of these games together in person. So
hopefully soon. Maybe later this year. You never know.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well, have a great week, and we'll talk to you
too.
soon.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right, Desus People Champ, your final thoughts on those two conference games and anything at all. The floor is yours.
I'm going to try not to be too long. I know y'all got to talk hockey. I'm pretty sure Anna's waiting patiently. Hi, Anna K. Boston steamrolled Toronto the other night. And right now, Milwaukee's got the edge right now on the Heat. Eastern Conference has always proven in years to be not that strong of a division, of a conference. And I predict that's going to be Milwaukee and Boston that's going to be the final two left. But I feel like whichever one of those two comes out of the East, they may not stand a chance against whoever comes out of the West, because the West just looks absolutely just amazing. And even in this restart in this bubble, they've just been looking so good. So I would just say Milwaukee may come out on top of both this series and the next series. And they may give the West – that might be the only team that could give the West a run, is that.
I agree. I think that they are the strongest team in the East that would be comparable to the playing style that we see in the West. The other teams don't play that same style, and I think they would just get beat by some of these powerhouses. But I'm at the point where I'm going to be shocked if the Lakers don't win this thing, right? Because I don't even think we've seen all of what they can do yet. And they, when they turn it on, they're just dangerous. I mean,
Yep, exactly. And one last thing, two things. One, I want to show off this shirt. This shirt is the Andino Heat shirt. That's a friend of mine who's a professional wrestler. It's his clothing line. You go on What a Maneuver and search Christopher Andino. You can get this shirt. It's a dope shirt. And number two, breaking news, which we'll talk about no spots this weekend. WWE NXT announcer Mauro Ranallo is now no longer with the company. it just dropped while I was on this call. So I'm going to follow up on that. We'll talk about that this weekend on No Spots. It's going to go up on Saturday. So y'all look out for it.
Sounds good. Yeah, check that out. Part of the True Radio Network. Champ, as always, we appreciate your time and joining us, and we'll talk to you about some more basketball as these playoffs continue. Have a great week.
Thank you. You too.
Alrighty. So that was a great NBA segment. I appreciate all of the roundtable for joining us and talking about some tough issues, and but also breaking down a little bit of basketball as well. So we're running a little bit late, but not too bad actually, all things considered, with the technical difficulties at the top. So we can get into some hockey talk now. It's I've honestly don't have enough screens for all the games I want to watch. I'm going to flip one of them to hockey, but we're going to bring in our hockey expert now, Anna Knox, and she could help break some of this stuff down with us as well. Carol, any quick thoughts as a transition between NBA to NHL, or anything that you've sort of seen this week that you want to talk about?
With the basketball situation, it's getting down to the nitty gritty. Conference finals be up next. So I've been watching. I really haven't watched much. I've been focused more on hockey and the Nets trying to get out of this hole they're in. They actually have a man on with 2 outs. Adam Eaton got a double. Luis Garcia is at the plate right now, still down to top of the 4th, trying to get a run in, maybe get 2 if Garcia can get a hold on one right here. So I haven't really watched much NBA. Excuse me. I've been checking out NHL definitely, and I'm just waiting to see where it's going to all fall out. I'm rooting. I don't even know who I'm rooting for in the NBA, but the Lakers, Clippers. That's going to be interesting to see how that folds out here. You pretty much a Lakers guy, so I might actually try to check out some of these series when the finals hit, the Eastern Conference Finals and the real finals, and maybe I can join y'all in roundtable talk a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. No, it's some interesting. I'm just happy that we have some sports to entertain us. Those 4 months were kind of brutal. So, at this point, I'll take anything. And I've been enjoying the baseball to some extent, but the NBA playoff bubble, it kind of gives this March Madness vibe to it that I kind of like, that has got me excited on that one. But I also like the 2 bubbles we've got in this hockey. And it's some interesting matchups. We've got 4 3-1 matchups, at least going into this, right now. First of all, I want to say hi to Anna Knox. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
What's going on?
Hey, Carol. I don't know. It's exciting hockey. Like, when I was starting to look through things, I thought, what, I think I have favorites, and it's so weird to say that when it's not the Capitals, but certain players that stick out, and, certain teams that have just been outstanding. I'm excited. I think it's been good. I think it's been physical. And I think that truly this round 2 has given the fans 60 minutes.
Yeah.
What we needed.
Karen, what are some of your thoughts on this round so far?
It's interesting that all the series are 3-1. I find that very interesting. And it's like you see one team push, and then the other team is like, okay, I'm down 0-2 or it's 1-1. We got to make a move. And you see them executing and doing what they, want to do on the ice. And unfortunately, we didn't see that from the, restart of the Capitals. But we're seeing quality hockey, especially in this different situation and different environment. But I think the players are playing well, dealing with the adversity of, no fans and being in a hub city and being away from their family and all of that stuff. So it's definitely some good hockey. It's definitely entertaining, and with the situation, it's still some good hockey out there. So I'm happy for that. Like you say, those 4 months, it was kind of brutal, man. It was kind of rough. I was rewatching the Caps.
I'd rather watch the Capitals lose than not watch the Capitals. So and that's pretty bad, right? So it's like that's where I was at. I'll take anything, and at least we had a good series. I think some of what we see with some of that Islanders series now is we thought a week ago that it was a really bad Caps team, but we gave Islanders a lot of credit too.
Man,
but I think
man, Trotz is a hell of a coach, man.
Yeah, but we talked about that. We were talking about how we were gunning for him and we want him to have success, and it was really impressive. And I thought he was a good coach. I thought they were a good team. I did not expect them to be the team that was up 3-1 in that series, for sure.
Agreed.
So,
definitely. I told you I was riding with him. 'Cause I want him to get that. Not that I'm an Islanders fan, but I want to see him get that ring just to say that, just to reiterate my point that they should have kept him. 'Cause I think he could have got another ring here.
I don't know, Carol. I'm starting to think you're a Clutterbuck fan. Just saying.
I'm more of a Trout's fan than a Clutterbuck fan. I'm not a Clutterbuck fan. I don't have the hatred that you have for him. But yeah, I'm not a fan of his. He hasn't rubbed me the wrong way like he's rubbed you. It's like I think he took your lunch money one day or something. You remember it?
He did, and I'm like ready to go, like jerk.
Yeah, let's start with that series. I want to hear you, and I want to get your breakdown. I'm just going to break down the games real quick, the full scores. Do you have the games? Or
I do. I have everything from game 2 on. So you want to go Islanders Flyers?
Yeah, sounds good. Why don't you break it down?
Perfect. So we have on August 26th, the Flyers actually winning in overtime 4-3. I thought that this was a chance that we were really going to see that number 1 Flyer seed just dominate, and shit, here comes the Islanders. Game 3, Islanders come back and they win 3-1. Game 4, the Islanders come back and they win 3-2. And so we have them the New York winning, or I should say leading 3-1. But when you look at their roster, I mean, if you were to be a hockey fan without a particular team in mind, how can you not say like a Brock Nelson and a Barzal and a Beauvillier, like they're outstanding and they're just on it, and they have been fantastic through this whole series. Although I'm not pulling for the Islanders so much, and I know I'm the black sheep in this one, but I was kind of hoping that the Flyers would maybe pull through, give them a chance to win. No disrespect to Trotz, but I don't know.
I'm going to still go on record and say I think the Flyers win the next one. It's just what happens in Game 6. I think something similar to what happened, the Caps didn't sweep. I think that to win, I don't know. I somehow think that I think the Flyers are going to come back, but I have to give the Islanders credit for their goaltending, right? Because they had 2 goaltenders going all season long, but they decided to stick with Varley, and they've done Varley the entire playoffs, and then they switched goalies on a back-to-back, which is a big risk, right? Because the guy who has not played the whole entire tournament, and he goes in and puts 36 saves up on 38 shot attempts. I mean, that's incredible right there.
Absolutely.
And that'll lift your team up on a doubleheader for sure, or a back-to-back night rather,
And I think when we were talking about the, sorry, Carol, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just saying Mitch Korn is a hell of a goalies coach, and he's going to have him. We saw what he did with Hobie, so that's the X factor right there. Go ahead and I just wanted to just throw his name out there.
Yeah, no. I 100% agree with you, and I think that what is really exciting is even though we're looking at the statistics of 3-1 with a lot of these games coming up, and who's gonna, there seems to be a dominating team within each team or within each series. I think that it's going to be this Game 5 is going to speak volumes on who really wants it the most, who's going to give it 100%. So I'm not going to count out the Flyers at all. I think that they have the potential. They know what they need to do. But this Islanders team, I will say Rob Carlin, I think last night was spot on when he said, and it might have been even, I think maybe it was just in a tweet, said that they just got progressively better and even more so throughout the third period. And that is just something that we have not seen with the Capitals, unfortunately. But with the Islanders, it's impressive hockey to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Islanders are going to take this series in 6 at this point, but I would not be surprised if it still goes 7 at all. I think the Flyers still have a tough go. Do you think, Carol, it's over in the next one, or how far do you think it goes?
I think it's done. Trotz has these boys ready. The Islanders are a good team, and we saw this same type of thing with the Capitals in their run. Like you said, they got impressively better throughout the game. We saw that with the Caps. They would have a slow start,